More often than not in life, we find ourselves chasing perfection, running after it and failing to achieve it endlessly. We treat perfection as the goal in life. We believe we need to be perfect in service to God or to be saved. But is God really asking us to be perfect? Or is He asking something else of us? Because I can remember countless times I failed to be perfect, yet I'm still here. One moment among hundreds comes to mind. I'd just gotten home around 11 p.m. after a long day at work. I'm usually in bed by 10, so I was very tired. And as soon as I stepped out of my truck, a woman asked me to drive her downtown. From where we were, it was about a 15 to 20-minute drive, and I just wanted to go to bed. So I told her no, gave her a shallow excuse, and went inside to go to sleep. I was a perfect Christian, would have given her a ride, would have been second nature to me, but I wasn't then, and I'm still not, so I didn't help her. This raises a brutal question. Was I wrong for not helping her? Was I failing to be perfect? Was God in that moment asking me to be a perfect servant? Or was He asking something else of me? I want you to keep these things in mind while I tell you some facts about sheep. The first of which is that God compares us to sheep over 400 times in the Bible. And out of every animal on the planet that He created, He chose sheep as the comparison for humanity. But why? Why sheep? Aren't sheep dumb, docile little herd animals, God's perfect little obedient creatures? Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. Sheep are not docile, and neither are they dumb. Sheep are, in fact, the perfect analogy for people, and it's because sheep and people are incredibly similar, eerily similar at times. Let's talk about what sheep are really like, because the stereotypes we have are far from the truth. You see, sheep are not dumb. Sheep are and can be very intelligent because they can recognize and tell the difference between different sheep by sight, sound, and smell. And they can do the same for humans too. They are able to distinguish between individual humans based on those same senses. Sheep even have problem solving skills. While researching for this sermon, I found a story about how a group of sheep had worked out how to get through and around an electric fence. They did this by timing the electrical pulses in the fence because it wasn't a constant current. And when the time was right, they jumped through and didn't get shocked. So sheep can, in fact, be very intelligent. Messing with an electric fence doesn't sound like a smart thing to do. And don't get me wrong, it's not, but it's because sheep, like humans, are very determined animals. If they see something they want, they'll figure out a way to get it. And they're stubborn too, hard headed just like us. They'll keep trying until they eventually figure it out. They have a will and a mind of their own and will often just do what they want, even if that gets them in trouble or they end up stuck. Their stubbornness tends to lead them to do some pretty stupid things for their favorite snacks, like clovers or greener grass. There's even a farmer in Aberdeen in the UK whose sheep got stuck in the fence so often trying to graze outside the fence that he had to put foam around their necks so they would stop getting stuck. I'm sure you can think of a time or two when you stuck your head in the proverbial fence and got yourself in a lot of trouble. I know I have, especially when I was a kid. I was on a lot of ADHD medication back then, and that had the adverse effect of mostly shutting down my emotions. So I'd mess with my teachers and the other students just to feel something. Nothing major, mostly minor inconveniences and stuff like that, but I'd still get in trouble for it. It's a habit I've had a hard time breaking. I still am a minor nuisance to a lot of people. So are you starting to see why we're compared to sheep? Because we're more alike than we are different. Sheep, just like people, are also incredibly diverse. Sheep come in all shapes and sizes. Some are small and weak and frail, and some are incredibly large and strong. Some, in fact, can be dumb, like a sheep getting stuck in a fence right next to an open gate. And some are incredibly smart. Some look funny, and some act funny. There are actually over 200 different breeds of sheep across the globe. Sheep also aren't as passive as we think. Sheep have very hard heads, rams especially so. Rams, if you're confused, are just adult male sheep, and they'll take you out if they don't like you. If a sheep or ram is upset or angry at you, they will headbutt you. They'll headbutt just about anyone and anything. Sometimes a sheep will just headbutt to communicate. A sheep will even headbutt their own shepherd. And sometimes they even do it to establish their social hierarchy, because apparently sheep have a pecking order like we often do. Or sometimes, if they're bored, they'll just ram things for fun. And that doesn't sound too docile to me, especially since they can cause some pretty serious injuries doing that. But interestingly enough, though, each sheep has a unique personality and will even treat individual sheep and people differently. But even more interesting, sheep, just like people, have complex emotions. They can get angry, and for a number of reasons. They could be hungry, thirsty, tired, or they could be upset because they're not getting what they want. I'm sure we've all been there. I know I can get upset when I don't get what I want, like when I want some time alone, but everybody decides that's the moment they need me. Sheep could even just be mad because they don't like you. Sheep can be happy. They can be content. They will run around and play, especially lambs when happy. Sheep will literally leap for joy and run around when excited. Sheep can also be sad. Mother sheep will feel grief and pain after losing a lamb. They'll feel sad when they're lost or can't find anyone. They'll even feel depressed when their friends die or go missing. Sheep are mostly known for their fear, though. They are not the bravest animals, especially when dealing with new environments and uncertainty. Sheep can and will feel uneasy. They can get stressed out, and when stressed out, they can't settle down. They just can't, and they won't lie down either. In their minds, they need to be ready to run if they have to. And when I'm exceptionally stressed out, I know I won't be sleeping all too well that night. And I know I'm not alone in this, because I'm certain stress has kept you up at night as well. Everything from school tests to job insecurity or just plain worries about what you're going to eat tomorrow. That stuff makes it hard to settle down. It's like it does with sheep. Stressed sheep doesn't tend to listen all that well either, especially when you try and get it to do something. And for me, when I'm stressed out about something, my mind tends to focus on that thing. It makes it harder to focus on anything else, which in turn just makes me more stressed. And now you can see why we're compared to sheep, because we are surprisingly similar. Everything from our stubbornness to get our way down to our proneness to being anxious. We really are just like sheep. But you know the amazing thing about being compared to sheep is? Sheep are not perfect. You actually have to look after and care for sheep. Sheep mess up. Sheep get in trouble. Sheep do stupid things and get stuck in weird places. And they panic and can't get out. Sheep can wander off and get lost or left behind. So they need a shepherd. And a shepherd always has to come and help them, because a sheep needs help. When in trouble, a sheep panics and freezes because they're scared and don't know what to do. Good shepherd always comes and helps their sheep. They don't leave the sheep stuck in a fence, even if it's the 400th time today that sheep got stuck in that same fence. And Jesus, being the good shepherd that he is, doesn't leave us with our heads stuck in the fence. I can remember a time when I messed up at work. I dropped a 2x4 on someone's satellite dish and broke it. It was not a cheap fix. I got myself in some pretty hot water that day. I thought I was going to be fired, but nope. Through the grace of God, I kept that job and somehow didn't have my pay docked for that. And so when we're anxious and afraid and can't sit still, He'll come, He'll settle us down, calm our worries and anxieties, and help us feel safe again. We can lie down and finally rest. I remember countless times when I've been super stressed out, but all I had to do to calm down was close my eyes and think about Jesus. All the stress seemed to melt away. When we're angry and butting our heads against him, because either we're upset or not getting our way, he doesn't kick us out or get rid of us or make us into dinner for that night. Instead, he makes us lie down, corrects us, and sends us back into the flock. Remember when I was chasing perfection, I hated that I couldn't do the most basic of things right. I kept messing up. I remember it even caused friction between me and God at the time because I was so upset at myself. Jesus sat me down and showed me that I didn't need to chase perfection. I just needed to calm down and chase Him. And when we're sad because maybe we've lost a friend, or family member, or any other reason we'd be sad, He lies down next to us in the grass, comforts us, and helps us to feel better. There have been many times in my life when I have felt completely alone and isolated, like when I first moved out on my own. Jesus didn't let me stay that way. He made sure I knew He was right next to me the whole time. He made sure I wouldn't feel alone. And even when we wander off or stay behind, He comes looking for us. He leaves the rest of His sheep safe and sound, and then comes looking for, trying to figure out where we've gone off to. And when He inevitably finds us, absolutely terrified and screaming for help, calms us down, picks us up, carries us home. Point is, sheep are not perfect little animals that always do what they're supposed to be doing. They need someone to take care of them. That's why we're compared to sheep. So God isn't asking us to be perfect. He's asking us to do what I failed to do to the woman who asked me for a ride. He's asking us to love each other, because treating everyone with love is the heart of Christianity. God has even defined His love. That's why Jesus says in Matthew 5:48, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." He's telling us to strive to be complete in love, to love others selflessly, even at our own expense. God is not telling us to be perfect, sinless creatures who never mess up or fail. He knows we will fail. He knows we will mess up. He knows we will continue to make a mess of things so long as we live, because He's been dealing with humanity since our creation. He's not asking us to be perfect. We're the ones constantly putting pressure on ourselves to be perfect. All He wants us to do is love Him and love each other. And that's a whole lot easier to do than to try and get everything perfect all the time. The next time you find yourself chasing perfection, remember, God isn't asking for perfection. God is asking you to love.